Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on what kind of jobs AWS certified professionals get once they get AWS certified. All right. So, guys, what we will be discussing today is once you get yourself certified. Now, there are a lot of certifications to basically attempt, but once you get certified in them, what kind of jobs can you actually apply for, right? And what are the various ways where you can basically take up your career in terms of different profiles which are out there? Okay, so that is what we will be discussing in today's session. Now, before we begin with the class, guys, we have some people on YouTube who are going to watch this session, and we also have some people who are watching this session on webinar. So people on webinar, you can go ahead and ask me questions. I'll be answering your questions live. For the people on YouTube, you guys can comment and my team is there. They will be answering all your comments as and when they come in. Okay, now before we begin with the class, guys, can everybody confirm if they are able to hear me? Can everybody give me a confirmation? Am I audible to everyone? Okay, Ravi says yes. Others? Okay, Eramodi says yes. Kon says yes. Sachin says yes. Deepak Thanakar. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your confirmation. So we'll now be beginning with the class. So let's go ahead and start with the first slide, which is basically our agenda. So, guys, first we will be discussing as to why you should basically, get certified in AWS. Now, there might be a lot of people over here who are already not certified in AWS, but they are planning to in the future. So let me reinforce some facts as to why AWS is the best thing to get certified in, right? Then I will be telling you how you guys can learn AWS. Now, there's a lot of things that you can actually learn in AWS, but what are the key things that you have to focus on from a job perspective that you should actually go ahead and learn in AWS? Then we will move on and talk about the different certification paths which are AWS, which are there in AWS, and then we will be discussing the various job roles which coincide with them. Okay, that you can apply for. So these job roles that we will be talking about would be on the likes of websites like Glassdoor or Indeed or Naukri. So all these websites, they will have job roles with these specific titles, and you as AWS certified professionals can apply for them based on what certifications you have done. So that is what we are going to discuss. And finally, we will be discussing about how to get started. All right. So, guys, this is the agenda for today's session. I hope it's clear to you. So now, without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and start off with the first topic, which is why do you actually should learn AWS, or why should you learn AWS? So, guys, AWS, if you talk about the current scenario, AWS is basically there in 190 plus countries, right? So, when I say 190 plus countries, there are businesses in 190 plus countries which are making use of AWS for making their applications available on the internet. Okay. And AWS as a cloud provider, it offers 170 plus cloud services till date. Now, all these cloud services are basically one form or the other of infrastructure or platform or software as a service, right? Wherein companies who do not want to use their own hardware, who do not want to use their own infrastructure, they basically take it from AWS and they use it. So there are 170 such services which are made available by AWS for us to use. And finally, AWS has more than 1 million active users. Now, 1 million active users, when you talk about these kind of numbers, these numbers are basically related to social media websites. But AWS as a tech platform, it has enabled 1 million people to get their job done, right? So this number is huge. Now, talking about the facts, let's now move on, and talk about some of the market shares which the different cloud providers have, right? So when we talk about Amazon, it is the largest cloud provider in the market. It has around 39% market share when you compare it with the other cloud providers which are there in the market. For example, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, Salesforce, or even IB Cloud as well, right? So you will see that it being the first or the topmost cloud provider, it has a market share of 39%. And when you talk about its competitors, let's talk about Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft is, although the second largest cloud provider in the market, still it is behind AWS by 20% market share. Now, 20% is a very big number, guys. You might all understand that let's say the difference between Microsoft Azure and Alibaba Cloud, which I guess most of you would have not heard about, it's 14%, right? But the difference between Microsoft Azure and AWS is 20%. Now, that's a huge gap when you take into account how many people are using cloud these days, right? If 1 million people are using just AWS, imagine the other 61% people, they are not there on AWS, but out of those 61% people, only a few are there on Microsoft Azure, a few are there on Google Cloud, etc. Okay, so that is the gap which you have between AWS and Microsoft Azure, and the way you can relate it with how that is good for you as a job. How open does that make that the job market for you if you are an AWS professional? Now, AWS having the most or the most having the most cloud share in the market, it basically tells you that out of 100, if there are 39 companies whom you're applying to, those 39 companies will be making use of AWS, right? Similarly, out of 100, only 19 companies make use of Azure. So only 9 companies make use of Google Cloud. So this is the job market. So if you are going out for a cloud job, chances are that that job is for AWS more than chances of it being an Azure job or a Google Cloud job, etc. And in most of the cases that you have over here, let's say AWS having a 40% market share, even in that case, there's an overlap as well, that some companies might be using AWS, but they might also be using Microsoft Azure, right? So this 19% market share that you see of Microsoft Azure, it is again a overlap of AWS or Google Cloud, that those companies are also making use of AWS or are also making use of Google Cloud. It's not just an exclusive cloud provider that is Microsoft Azure which is being used. Okay, so that's how you can actually make out of this market share thing. And based on that, you can see that there are 7,500 jobs in total just for the solutions architect domain. And this is just the numbers for India. We are not talking about US. US, it's even higher. And I will be showing you that as we move along. Okay. All right. Moving forward, now let's talk about which companies are using AWS. So these are all some of the popular companies like Netflix, Reddit, Pinterest, Switch, right? These are all using AWS. Even Salesforce, for some of its services, is making use of AWS background, right? So all these companies or all these services you might have used in some point of some point in your life, and all of them, if they are awesome to use or if they are always available, it's just because they are hosted on the AWS infrastructure. And when you look at it from a job perspective, if you have an AWS certification or if you have the necessary skills, these are the top companies that you can actually apply for just by having the AWS knowledge. Okay, so let me see if we have any questions before we move on. So Sanjay is saying, is this current market survey report? So Sanjay, this is a 2019 market share report. So we basically collated all the 4 quarters, and that's how we are basically. Okay. Okay. So sorry for that. So Oleg Vanga is saying that, do we have to master all the AWS services or do we just have to specialize in few? Very good question, Oleg Vanga. So there are only a specific AWS services that you actually have to take care of, right? And when you talk about like, for example, solutions architect or AWS developer or AWS administrator, all of them have different skill sets, and based on their skill set, they have to pick and choose the services that they have to basically learn. And that is exactly what I'm going to also tell you about in the further sessions as to what exactly you should learn to basically become a certain profile. Okay. The second question that Oliver is asking is, does Intellipaat issue certificate of completion after the architect solutions training? Yes, Oliver, we would do that. But that certification would be different from what AWS is going to issue you, because you will have to give a certification exam, and then the AWS certification body will basically, give you a certification that will basically certify that you are a skilled a professional in the AWS services now. Okay. Third question is that he's asking is, if yes, can we start applying for job after Intellipaat training, or must we take the certification exam before we can do so? Well, in most of the cases, Oravinga, what happens is AWS certification is not that necessary. Okay, let me break it down for you in this way. So why AWS certifications are important. So certifications are important just for you to apply for interviews, right? So let's say there are 5 candidates who are applying for an interview profile, right? So all those 5 candidates, what is the first thing that you can take in to evaluate which candidate you should interview first, right? And obviously, any job that you apply for, there are limited seats and there are multiple applicants who are applying for that same profile. So the first thing that a hiring manager basically looks at is, if he has a lot more number of candidates, is that person certified or not? Because if that person is certified, then automatically it saves up time for the hiring manager to beat around the bush and ask him some basic AWS questions. So that guy is obviously a professional. He has cleared the certification. Obviously, he knows more about AWS, and that is why he got certified, right? So that is how some companies, they put a filter on how they would hire candidates when they're hiring for AWS professionals. Now, to answer your question, after completion of the AWS course, without giving the exam, should you apply for jobs? So my answer to that would be, absolutely yes. Why should you do that? Because it will not be like this, that any interview that you sit for today, you will get the job, right? In my experience, I have given around 60 to 70 interviews for a particular job profile as well before grabbing that interview or grabbing that particular profile or that particular package, that salary package that I want, right? So similarly, you should not wait for getting certified and then applying for jobs. You should start applying for jobs early hand as well, because there are companies which do not filter out on the basis of certifications. Reason being, they get probably less applicants, or it's a young company who does not only want you to know AWS, but a lot of other skills as well, right? So it all depends on which company you're trying to apply for. But yes, the moment you are done with the training, the moment you have acquired those skills, you might schedule your exam for a later date, but you should start applying for jobs from day one. That would be my suggestion to you. So the next question that he's asking is, how do we overcome the tough condition of having experience on our resume, especially for beginners? So the thing is, when you apply for an AWS job, it's not just that you will have to showcase only your AWS skills, right? Whatever you're bringing from your technical background is also going to play a major part in how you will be evaluated based on the seniority of your profile, right? Let's say you are a 10 years experienced person. Let's assume you are from a banking domain, right? And you have around 10 years of experience in banking domain, and now you want to switch to a technical domain called AWS, and now you have mastered all the concepts and you're good to go, right? Now, there are a lot of banking companies who would want their infrastructure on AWS, right? And wouldn't it be better if they get a guy who not only understands the banking process, but at the same time they can also implement, their infrastructure on AWS? So those are the kind of jobs that you will have to apply for. So you will have to see your technical background or your career, what you have done in the past, and how can you relate it to companies, or how you can pitch yourself in front of companies with this new edition of AWS certification with you. So it's all upon how you pitch yourself in front of your recruiter, than to basically say that, I'm from a different domain and now I'm doing something different with AWS. That should never be the case. That is not how you should, pitch yourself to your recruiter. Okay, I hope I answered your question. All right. So Tajuddin is saying, sir, does EC student can learn this? Why not, Tajuddin? So if you are a person who probably want to get into, the IT domain, so I would recommend you to know cloud, because every job these days, it has become all about, where it is deployed. For example, even if you're a developer, at some point in your time, you will have to know about cloud SDKs. You will have to learn about uh, how you can write your code so that it can interact with the infrastructure which is there on cloud, right? So any IT profile that you apply for, cloud has become a very basic necessity for everyone to learn, right? Now, cloud various itself has various levels. For example, solutions architect is a little higher level, right? But let's say you are applying for a support profile. For even for a support profile in, let's say, infrastructure role, you will have to learn AWS, and there's a foundation certification for that, right? So it all depends on what you're targeting, and more on this we will be discussing as we move along in this section. Okay. Ravi is saying, what are the prerequisite for knowing AWS? Ravi, the prerequisite would be to have a little knowledge about Linux. But I guess when you learn with Intellipaat, in that case, that particular prerequisite is also covered. So with the AWS course that Intellipaat offers, they give you a free self-paced training of Linux that you can go through, and then you can start your AWS course. So more on this we will be discussing as we move along. Deepak is saying, being a fresher in this technology, what are the chances of getting a job in this field? Deepak, there are a lot of chances for you to get in this field, but you cannot expect yourself to straight away get a 16 lakhs or 20 lakhs job, given that you only know cloud, right? You will have to start small. There are profiles like junior architects, there are profiles like cloud support engineers, right, that you can apply for if you just have AWS knowledge. But if you combine it with, let's say, development skills, administrator skills, then that would, boost what your starting package can be. So as a fresher, can you apply? Yes, you can apply, but you'll have to make sure of the the salary package that you're applying for. Okay, Vipul is saying, I want to say something. So Vipul, please let us know in the comment section. Pooja is saying no audio. Guys, am I audible to everyone? Can please people confirm? Okay. Venkat is saying AWS no alone to crack job or any add-on technology required. So Venkat, as you progress in your cloud career, you might learn more technologies, but as starters, if you AWS is the first cloud provider that you're learning, then I guess this is enough to basically apply for a job. Okay. Thanakar is saying, will associate certification will do, or do I need to have professional certificate? Thanakar, let's discuss this later. So I will be discussing about associate, professional, foundational certifications. Rajeshwari is saying, I worked as an AWS cloud engineer for 7 months and completed AWS Solutions Architect Association. Am I okay to attend interviews for cloud architect positions? Sure, Rajeshwari. It will help me more if you can tell me a brief about your experience, and then I can probably guide you better. Is it required any programming language to learn AWS? Raman Reddy is asking. Learning scripting, a Linux scripting, uh, uh, learning scripting in Bash, I think that would help. Raman Reddy, programming language as such is not necessary, but I think if you learn Python, it will not harm you because it's the most easiest language to learn, and at the same time, it's more versatile as well when you compare it to other programming languages. What tech can we learn for cracking AWS? Manoj is asking. So AWS itself is a tech to learn, Manoj. I think it'll be clear more to you when we move along. Samarina is saying, I'm a Tableau professional. Which AWS course should be best for me? Let's discuss that, Samarina. I will be talking about it in my further slides. Dinesh is saying, how much programming experience is required for getting cloud jobs? No programming experience at all, Dinesh. So it depends on what kind of profiles you're applying for. So let me talk about it in my further profiles. Rajeshwari is saying, apart from AWS experience, I have 15 years of experience as a developer in Java and C#. That's very good, Rajeshwari. Veera is saying, what are the prerequisites for this and consolidation? We will be talking about it in a little while, Veera. Ashwarya is saying, we have lost the audio connection, I think. Guys, can anybody else confirm me this? Veera is saying how AWS and DevOps are related. So let me cover that in the end, Veera, because that would go out of the scope of what we're discussing right now. Okay, so thank you for the confirmation, guys. People who are not able to hear me, uh, if you can hear what I'm saying in bits and pieces, just refresh, just exit your GoToWebinar and join again. I think that should help you out. Jaidev is saying I have 19 plus years of experience in telecom and I want to change my domain. Where can I fit and what I need to have as a basic knowledge as I'm having fresher. Okay, so Jaidev, let me answer your question. So let me pick all these questions when we basically, reach towards the end of the session, because then it'll make more sense because I would have explained to you guys a lot of things. Hema saying tips to prepare for SA02. Sure, Hema, we'll do that. Vipul is saying please unmute me. Vipul, let me do that towards the end of the session because right now let me just cover what I have to cover and then we discuss. Venkat is saying okay, thank you. All right, Balaji is saying QA role here. Great, Balaji. Okay, so I think everyone is talking about their experience right now. So guys, I'll cover all of these experiences once I have covered a certain part of the slide deck, because that would answer most of your questions as to what you should do. Okay, so I would expect you all to be a little more patient, and then let me cover the slide deck quickly. Okay, so why should you learn AWS? These are the kind of jobs or these are the kind of companies that you can apply for, right? And now let's talk about some of the average salaries of certain profiles in AWS. For example, a solutions architect profile in India on an average earns around 7,30,000 rupees per annum. And when you talk about US, they earn around 122,000 per annum. Now, remember guys, this is average salary earned by a solutions architect, which basically means you can also earn less than this or more than this, but majority of the solutions architect out there are earning in these ranges, right? Now, let's talk about how you should actually learn AWS. See, somebody asked me, is a certain should we learn all the services that are there in AWS, or are there certain specific services that you have to learn? So I think this would answer your question. So guys, first of all, what you have to do is any profile that you want to prepare for. So there are three major profiles in AWS. So you have the architect profile, you have the administrator profile, and then you have the developer profile with respect to AWS. So based on these three profiles, you will have to pick up the certification. So the certifications are what I said: solutions architect, SysOps, which is for administrator, and developer for people who have a development background. Now, these exams have exam guides, right? So they have, so for example, when you used to give exams in schools, so you used to have a syllabus, right? Similarly, all these certifications, they also have a syllabus, and they basically guide you what exactly has to be learned in AWS, what specifically has to be learned in AWS, what are the specific kind of services that you should learn for cracking the AWS certification, right? Which will also which can also directly relate to your job as well. What are the major services that you will make use of while you're working as an AWS professional, right? So all these things can be answered to you while you refer to the exam guides. And for exam guides, to make your life easier, what you can do is just head over to Intellipaat.com. And on Intellipaat.com, we have done your homework. What we've done is all our courses basically are directly related to the exam guides for each and every certification, right? So if you search in AWS over here, you will find all the three exams that we have, that is solutions architect, then you have administrator, and then you have the developer profile, right? So you can just pick up that particular page and you can see the course curriculum. So that is exactly what you have to study in order to crack the exam or to get a job for that particular profile. Okay, so that would be the answer of which services should I learn? Should I learn all services or not? No, all the services are not required. Only the services which are mentioned on these pages. So first is the AWS certification of solutions architect. Then you have AWS developer certification, and then you have AWS SysOps certification. Just go through these pages, and they should help you out with what are the skills that you need to learn. Okay. What are the different ways to learn? You can learn, you can self-learn, right? So there are a lot of blogs from Intellipaat that you can go ahead and learn. There are a lot of videos on YouTube by Intellipaat and others as well that you can go ahead and learn from, which have a lot of hands-on as well, which have a lot of documentation as well, right? And then you will have to basically pick up different kind of problem statements which are available on the internet. Try to solve them on your own, and that's how majority people basically they learn AWS in order to get a job. Okay, now let's talk about something which I guess everybody of you might be interested in, which is the certification parts. So a lot of you guys have pinged me, your experience, and based on your experience, you want to know what is the best certification that you actually want to opt for. So let's talk about that. So guys, basically there are 3 levels in AWS certifications, right? So the first one is the foundational certification. The next one is the associate certifications, and then you have professional certifications. So these 3 are the categories which are there in AWS certification. Now there's a 4th category as well, which is called the specialty certification. We'll be focusing on this later, right? Because very few people basically do the certification, but majority of you only, these are the certifications that you would be interested in. Now, which kind of certification should you apply for? Let's talk about that. Okay. So if you are basically a person who's starting out as a fresher in the sense you have just graduated, and now you want to do something in the cloud domain. So if that is something that you're aiming for, I will suggest you guys to go for foundational certification. Now, what is the foundational certification? Foundational certification is the most basic certification in AWS, and it's going to check you on basic AWS skills. For example, launching a server, creating a network, right? Deploying an application. So all these are the kind of things which are covered in foundational certification, but it will not cover most. It will not test you on the hands-on aspect of these services. It will basically do a general knowledge check of whether you know all these services which are there in AWS or not. And when I say all, the certifications which are basically mentioned on the exam guide. So that is what the cloud practitioner certification is for, which falls under the foundational certifications. Now, if you do this certification, what kind of jobs can you apply for? So this would basically, gauge the entry-level jobs. For example, you can apply for support roles. And when I say support roles, there are cloud support roles as well, which basically pay you as high as 12 or 13 lakhs per annum in India, and I think in the US they can pay you around $100,000 to $110,000 per annum. So that is the highest that can go even in a support role. So for those kind of support roles, you will not be eligible. But yes, for companies which basically are hosting their infrastructure on AWS and very operational kind of problems if they get, and if you want to solve those kind of problems, and if you want to apply for those kind of jobs, you can basically aim the foundational certification. It can fetch you a package of around 5 to 6 lakhs, right? Highest package if you apply for a foundational certification. Then the next kind of certification that we have is the associate certification. Now, associate certifications are for people who have background in the IT domain, who have background and or who have done some years of services and are now wanting to learn cloud or wanting to switch to the cloud domain, right? Those are the people who should opt for associate certifications. Now, in associate certification, you have 3 categories. The first category being the architect certification, then you have the SysOps certification, and then you have the developer certification. So what is the difference between the 3? So if you're a person who has been a developer for some while now, and you continue and you still want to continue being a developer, but your company has a requirement that they're now shifting their infrastructure on cloud, cloud like AWS. So in that case, there will be a lot of integrations that your code will have to make with the AWS infrastructure, for which you will have to know the software development kits of AWS, right? So if you are well versed with the software development kits of AWS, or if you want to get well versed with the software development kits of AWS, then you should go ahead and aim for the AWS developer certification. Okay. Similarly, people who are from an admin background, they're Windows admins or Linux admins, right? And they now want to upgrade themselves. They still want to be administrators, but they want to upgrade themselves into a cloud specialist as well. In those kind of scenarios, you should opt for sysops administrator certification, right? The third category is the solutions architect certification, where people who are already developers but they don't want to be developers anymore, they want to apply for CTO kind of roles or tech lead kind of roles, then you can apply for the, or you can basically get yourself certified in the architect certification. People who are administrators who do not want to be administrators anymore, they want to apply for DevOps profile, they want to apply for like I said, tech lead profiles or team lead profiles, then you should do the architect certification. And people who do not have an IT background as of now, but they still want to move to the cloud domain, right? Or you have little or less IT background, technical background, and you still want to do the cloud domain. For you guys as well, you have the architect certifications for you. Reason being, architect certifications basically focus on best practices of deploying an architecture, best practices of cost management, best practices of monitoring the services, right? So all these, when you combine it with a developer background and an ops background, will fetch you a senior profile, a very senior profile indeed. But when you combine it with a background which does not have anything else with respect to IT, right? You might not be able to, aim at a package which probably your developers or your operations counterparts will be able to aim, but you still will be able to switch to the cloud domain. Reason being, it does not, solutions architect profile does not require you to have a coding or a programming background. It does not require you to, have any programming knowledge, right? And that's why it's one of the most apt certifications for people who want to become a tech lead, or probably they want to open their own company, want to become the CTO of their own company, or want to become a CTO of a startup. In those kind of scenarios, you should opt for architect certifications, right? Similarly, you have a level up, you have a certification which is all right. Sorry guys, there was a networking issue. I hope I'm audible to everyone now. So everything now, similarly, you have something called as a professional certification. Now, what is a professional certification? Professional certifications basically, are a level higher than what associate certifications are. What they basically guarantee you is, if you have done the associate certification and you now want to apply for even senior profiles, some MNCs, they expect when they are doing internal promotions, and let's say you are already at a very senior profile, when they are doing internal promotion, they would expect you to do professional certifications, right? And that is exactly what the professional certifications are, right? So if you talk about the solutions architect professional certification, it's basically, like I said, a notch up or a notch higher than what solutions architect is. Similarly, the DevOps engineer profile is a notch higher than what a SysOps administrator and a developer profile is. So if you want to do a professional certification in AWS as a solutions architect, right, you will first have to clear the associate certification, which is there for solutions architect. Similarly, if you want to apply for the DevOps engineer professional certification, you will first have to do the associate certification of SysOps and AWS developer. It's not and sorry, either AWS SysOps or AWS developer associate certification. Only then you will be able to sit for DevOps engineer professional exams. Okay, so guys, this is basically this basically will tell you which certifications you should apply for with respect to whatever background you have, right? Then the fourth category of certifications that you have is the specialty certifications. So specialty certifications are basically certifications which is for certain type of roles. For example, if you are in the networking domain, right, you still want to be in the networking domain, but your company expects you to have a thorough knowledge of networking from the AWS infrastructure point of view, then the networking specialty certification is for you. Similarly, you have the domain of for big data, security, machine learning, Alexa skill builder. These are basically very specific certifications to go for when you want to certify your skills in AWS and you already have a background, let's say networking or big data or security or machine learning or Alexa skill builder. Okay, so those are the certifications to apply for when you have that said skill set. Okay, so again, all the exams or all the certifications that I just talked about, they will have exams, and these exams will be in the format of MCQs. They will have a certain cost attached to it, which you can see on the screen. They will have a certain time limit to them as to when you have to complete them, what is the time limit to basically attend for them. And that is all, I think, mentioned on the screen, right? Now, the next topic is about AWS job roles. And before we move forward, guys, let's talk about the questions that were raised, right? So let's pick up those questions one by one, and let me start to answer over there. Okay, so let's start with Rajeshwari. So he's saying, apart from AWS experience, I have 15 years of experience in developer in Java and C#. So Rajeshwari, for you, since you already have a 15 years of experience, what I would recommend is I would recommend you to basically go ahead for the architect certification. And if you've already done the architect certification, I would recommend you to go for the DevOps certification. Why DevOps certification? Why not the solutions architect professional certification? Because the DevOps certification will not only fetch you a higher package, but there are a lot of job profiles to apply for when you talk about the DevOps profile, at least in this time frame that we are sitting in right now. There are a lot of companies who are transitioning from the traditional way of working in the software development lifecycle to DevOps. And I think if you skill up yourself in DevOps with AWS, I think it will help you a lot. Okay. Then the next question that I had was from Venkat, who's saying how AWS skills add to SAP basis admin trainers. So Venkat, it all depends on what you have learned while you were implementing the SAP. Let's say SAP is basically, if I'm not thorough with SAP, but my understanding is that it's an ERP tool, right? So there will be a lot of reports. There will be a lot of logics that you can create in the SAP tool, and there are a lot of companies which probably are not using SAP these days. Or if they're using SAP, they would want to implement their SAP solution on AWS. So if you upgrade yourself to the AWS infrastructure, I think it will help you a lot to help companies transition onto SAP software while using the AWS infrastructure. And for you to pitch that, I think the best certification that you can apply for is the architect certification. Okay. Jaidev is saying, I'm having 19 plus years in telecom operations lead, and I want to change my domain where I can fit and which organization and what I need to have basic knowledge as I'm having a fresher background. Okay. So Jaidev, please help me out. So this telecom operations job that you have, was it related to the IT domain, or was it just related to the operations job, the normal operations job that we have? Okay. Hema is saying, could you please share some tips on how to prepare for SA C02 certification? So Hema, I would recommend you to go to the Intellipaat website. Over there, like I said, there's a course curriculum which we have defined, right? So from there, you can get an idea on what to exactly prepare for, right? And once you get that idea, there are a lot of hands-on also that we have basically pointed out over there that you should practice. Start from there. And there's one more thing. There's something called as Intellipaat Academy. For all of you who don't know about it, if you go there, we have some free courses for you to go to. You will also see that there is an AWS course, which is basically free of cost that we have added over here. So you can go through this AWS course. This is not the full course that you can go to understand AWS better, right? But if you are interested, if you like our way of teaching, probably you can enroll in the premium courses as well, right? Which will teach you end to end about each and every certification. Okay. If you are a person who probably are now done with the system admin profile and now want to move ahead, I would suggest to go for solutions architect profile. Okay. Ramesh is saying, do you know what kind of pay is expected after completing AWS Architect professional certification? Well, Ramesh, the AWS Architect professional certification should only be done if your company is expecting it, or the kind of job that you're applying for is mentioning it as a prerequisite. Because in the job scenario, I guess not automatically a person who is as experienced as a person who can crack that certification need not you know uh, not have much of competition in the job profile that he's applying for. And having said that, I think so it's better to opt for DevOps certification than to go for a solutions architect professor certification. In my experience, in what I have seen, in my little time that I've spent in the IT industry. Okay. Andy, so you will have to see what jobs you are applying for. So, like you said, you were in IT support, right? So it all depends on what skill sets you have gained over the years, and with that skill set, how much level of expertise have you gained, and with the certification that you have done, what kind of jobs that are you applying for, right? So if you are from IT support and over there you dealt with, let's say, Linux servers. So as a next step, I think if you know Linux, you should apply for the sysops profile. Okay, does not know Linux that much, but wants to go inside the cloud domain. I think you should apply for the solutions architect profile. Okay, Vipul has a question. I am fresher in IT field. So can I get the job as AWS admin? How much package will I get? So Vipul, I mean, the maximum package that you can expect after doing an architect certification as a fresher, given the fact that you are not good with coding or development, I think the maximum that you can get is around 6 to 7 lakhs. But if you also bring on the table your developer experience, if you're very good with development, I think you can easily, go around 12 to 13 lakhs as well. So it all depends on what skill set you are bringing to the table while you finish your IT course. People is saying having 10 years of experience in BPO. So Vipul, if you have 10 years experience in certification that the SysOps certification and the sorry guys, there was a networking issue on my end. Really sorry, the weather is a little bad on my end, and that's why the electricity is going on and off. So I was talking about Nagaraju. So Nagaraju says he has 10 plus of years. Right now, with that said, if you're doing that, uh, when you apply for the architect certification, you will be applying for a job as tech lead or team lead or Krishna is saying, is there any connection between AWS and DevOps? Just hold on a minute, Krishna. Yeah. So, is there any connection between AWS and DevOps? Uh, AWS and DevOps are very different services, Krishna. But when you talk about the tech domain, AWS and DevOps are used with each other, right? So, AWS basically provides you with the infrastructure, and DevOps are the services. DevOps services basically help you in creating pipelines which will help you in deploying your software better on the AWS infrastructure. So you can say that DevOps is a way of deploying software on certain infrastructure, and that certain infrastructure is AWS. So that's how AWS and DevOps basically gel up. Okay. Akash is saying, so cloud computing in future, and what is necessary for it to join. Akash, the scope of cloud computing in future, I mean, there's a bright scope. Reason being, still companies are now shifting to cloud, because what happens is, if you talk about the business model of any company, or an infrastructure that you get from someone, then right, rather than basically having your own infrastructure, because when you have your own infrastructure, in that case, what that not only you you will have to manage it on your own. You not only the hardware problems you have to deal on your own. Not only you will have to have a team 24/7 to monitor everything, power backup, internet issues, everything will be managed by you, which will also account to if there are any downtimes which are experienced by your application. But when you talk about these cloud, sorry, so I don't think, but when you talk about companies and the owning a certain hardware, it's always better to get it done from a cloud provider itself rather than owning it, because the costs are very less in that particular scenario. Okay, Sachin is saying years of experience. Are there jobs as project manager in AWS cloud? There are jobs, but you will have to apply for the right jobs, right? As a project manager, I think it's better if you would be in at job profiles where nobody really asked to drive the whole project, decide how the project is going to be, but at the same time architect the project as well, where you will decide how the particular thing will be implemented technically as well, right? So I'm not sure which side of project management you have basically dealt with, but when you basically get it to be dealing with the technical side of things with the operational side of things. I'm saying I'm having experience in IT. AWS is having a developer profile. Yes, Amit. So like discussed There is an AWS developer certification which is given to you, which you can basically opt for if you're already a developer. Startups, they don't need an initial investment in order to get the AWS infrastructure. $10,000 or 10,000 rupees in a month, and they can have a very good infrastructure in place where they can easily manage 100,000 users, at a single time. So that is the kind of infrastructure that you can afford with just 10,000 rupees in hand, and when you're starting your own company. So Idris is saying, which would you recommend for a database administrator? So it also depends. So if you still want to be a database administrator, I would suggest you to go for the sysops profile. But like I said, if you feel that you've spent enough time as a database administrator and you have gained enough skills as a database administrator, you should go ahead and get yourself certified in the architect certification, because that will open your doors to many more profiles that you can apply for. But you will have to be very good in the job that you are right now, which is as a database administrator. Only then you should think about switching your profile to architect, or only then goes you have. But if you have interest in your domain and you think you should spend a year or 2 year more to explore this field more, then you should apply for AWS sysops certification. Prashant is saying, can we go ahead with associate level certification by bypassing foundation level certification? Yes, Prashant, you can do that. Uh, uh, Ramakant is saying, engineer is having 6+ years of experience as system admin. Which is the best part to select in AWS? The best part would be sysops, but like I said, if you do not want to be in that profile, I think you should go for solutions architect. Vipul is saying, please unmute me so I can talk. Vipul will do that once I'm done with the session. So Ravi is saying, I'm working as a program manager, managing infrastructure projects and a few application projects. What AWS suits me? I'm expected to complete one AWS. So if you are managing infrastructure projects, I think in that case, Ravi, the app certification for you would be the solutions architect certification. So Akash is saying, I'm pursuing undergraduate now. Can I apply for AWS? Sure, Akash, why not? That'll basically boost, I think, your job profile when you're basically competing amongst your friends in college. Malyadri is saying, I'm having 12 years of experience in SAP BI space. Which one suits for me? So I think Malyadri architect certification would be the one which will be apt for you. Rajesh is saying, I'm having more than 20 years of experience in wireless and data networks and have contributed to OpenStack and know everything on AWS. What exam should I take as I'm aiming for 50 LPA package? So Rajesh, in that case, I think you should basically aim for two certifications, which are the professional certifications. So you can first go for the DevOps engineer profile, because I think the 50 LPA package will get you covered in that. If you're aiming for a very senior profile, because DevOps will not only uh, get your skills into software development lifecycle, but on the other hand, the AWS skills would be according to what you have already done, which is as uh, networking and other things which are implemented basically in a company. I think with your kind of experience, with 50 package, you can get it. You know both the sides, is AWS DevOps and of course the programming languages, because you will also be expected to solve problems which let's say you are hired as a CTO in a company, right? So you will be expected to hire saying certification. So sysops and developer should only be aimed for when you have that background. If you have an Linux admin background, then you should opt for sysops. If you have programming background and you still want to continue in that field, you should apply for the AWS developer certification. In all other cases, you should opt for AWS architect certification. Okay, Murugan is saying he's facing audio issues. Will the webinar be repeated in the future? Murugan, the recording will be available to you, so this will be mailed to you later, so you can have a look at it after this session as well. So Sanjay is saying after completion of AWS course, how much time will be given for the preparation of interview? Kindly let me know. So once you're done with the AWS course, Sanjay, I think you should start your interview preparation from day one as well. So as and when you will be progressing in your course, you should also see what are the kind of things which are being asked in the jobs, right? For cracking the interview, you do not actually have to have, for cracking the exam, you do not have to have the interview knowledge. But yes, while you're giving interviews, you will get to know about a lot of other questions that probably the course will not be able to teach you, because only when you practice you get to know about a lot of things which only knowledge passing or doing hands-on will not be able to get you. So only when you solve real production problems, you will be able to actually crack interviews more frequent. And that's why even the course that Intellipaat has designed, every module, every lecture that you have in AWS, Intellipaat's course of AWS is going to fetch you not only the production knowledge, but at the same time of industries out there, business, banking or healthcare, all different kind of is going to expand. So Deepak is saying, I'm not sure if I'm facing the network issue. No, Deepak, the network issue was on my side. I think it will be resolved now. Okay, so let me quickly finish up the questions, guys, and then we will move further. All right. So Idris has a question. So Idris is saying, what practice exams do you recommend for preparing for solutions architect exam on Udemy or somewhere else? Idris, I would recommend you to go through a lot of videos. So let's say, for example, if we talk about YouTube, there are a lot of videos which Intellipaat has posted. For example, we have a AWS full course 10 hours video. You can go through that for preparing for the solutions architect, what do you say, certification. But when you talk about cracking the interview, I would still suggest you to don't focus much on just passing the certification exam, because that can only fetch you interviews. But once you are sitting in an interview, your hands-on knowledge, what you have practiced, is going to help you more, right? So most of the courses that I've seen on Udemy, they are theoretical in nature, or they have very basic hands-on. So you should practice more on AWS white papers. So AWS officially has given out a lot of white papers for you to practice on, right? So you can practice those white papers, practice the architectures that are present there, practice the different kind of scenarios in which different kind of architectures they have suggested. So if you do that, I think that should help you a lot. Okay. Raj is saying, I'm desktop engineer at one of the IT companies. Which AWS is suitable for me? As a desktop engineer, I think Raj, it will be better. So with the desktop engineer profile, are you also having a Linux background? If yes, you should opt for sysops. If not, you should opt for solutions architect. Kirti saying voice is breaking, so I think Kirti, it should be better now. Akash is saying, can I please get a certificate of participation for this webinar? Akash, for this webinar, I don't think there's a participation certificate. So I'm sorry, but I don't think for this webinar you will have a participation certificate. Okay. Olubenga is saying, my background is in international raw research with no IT background. What type of AWS architect job will suit my background? Please, can you post your WhatsApp number to me? I would like to talk to you after the session. So, Olubenga, what you can do is you can basically opt for, as a starter, if you don't have any IT background, I would ask you to go for the foundational certification first, because then it will basically tell you whether you are made or whether you're able to understand the concepts or not. Once you crack that certification, I would suggest to go for associated certifications as well. Now, with your scenario, there are a lot of people, whom I've trained as well and whom I know also, who have made this career change. And it is possible, but it will require a lot of efforts from your side. And if you are ready, I think you should directly aim for associate certification. But if you are a little reluctant, I would suggest you to go for foundational certification first, and then opt for the associate certification. Okay, Naveen saying, I'm automation engineer. Can you please suggest me which one is best fit? So as an automation engineer, Naveen, I think you can opt for both AWS developer profiles or AWS architect profiles, because both would be beneficial for you. So if you are planning to become a developer in the future, let's assume, so in that case, you should go for the AWS developer profile. But if you are aiming to become not a developer and you do not want to do much of coding, but you want to become probably a manager of a team who leads a project, who designs architectures, in those kind of scenarios, you should opt for the solutions architect certification. Okay, Kirti is saying, I'm having 5 years of experience as a system admin in Windows. Can I do SysOps certification? Yes, obviously, Kirti, you can do that. So your experience is directly mapping with the SysOps certification. So you should go ahead and do that. Okay, so that would be the end of the questions, guys. Now let's talk about the various job roles that you can apply for as an AWS professional who has got certified. Okay, so guys, there are various profiles that you can apply for. So some of these profiles, so when you search for a cloud job role, let's say on a website like Indeed or Glassdoor, these are the job roles that you would be looking at. So you would look at a job role such as solutions architect, a SysOps administrator, a senior AWS cloud architect, cloud DevOps engineer, operational support engineers, cloud DevOps engineers, developer engineers. So here you can easily make out now with the certifications that we have discussed that, let's say if you do the AWS developer certification, then you are basically made for the cloud developer job role. If you have done a admin certification, then you're made for the SysOps administrator or an operational support engineer kind of job role. If you have done the solutions architect certification, then you can apply for cloud engineer, cloud DevOps engineer profiles, or even the solutions architect profiles. All of these will be apt for you while you're applying for it, right? Similarly, there are some profiles which are very senior in nature. For example, some senior profiles will not only be called senior AWS cloud architect, but it can also be cloud DevOps engineer. So cloud DevOps engineer will also has a lot of depth inside it, guys. So if you see a package of around 25 plus lakhs of package, right? And if that is your goal, you should basically get yourself, and if you're aiming for cloud DevOps engineer or senior AWS cloud architect role, then you should aim for getting the cloud AWS DevOps certification, which is the professional certification for your reference, right? Or let's say you're not interested in DevOps, you're just interested in architecting, then you can apply for the solutions architect professional jobs as well. But those are only for the senior roles, like I said. Okay, now let's talk about we've talked about the different job roles. We've talked about the different certification paths. I've also discussed with you with what kind of experience you should apply for what kind of job roles. Now let's talk about how you can actually get started. Okay, so we at Intellipaat, we basically are an e-learning company. And why do we exist? We exist because we understand that you as professionals are very short on time. You want to switch quickly, you want to switch with the best training in hand, and you want hands-on exposure at the same time, right? So with that in mind, we have carefully curated this AWS course, which not only covers the course content of what you will be requiring to clear the certification exam, but it also includes hands-on sessions, case studies, assignments, project works, which you can add in your resume and which will basically also add up for the lost experience that you don't have on your resume right now, which is from either the IT domain or from, let's say, an architect profile, etc. So if that is the kind of experience that you want, you can actually go ahead and take up the Intellipaat course, and you get a lot of other features as well once you opt for the AWS course with Intellipaat. And let me put down those features for you. So let's say you take a course with us. So what are the kind of features that we offer, right? So first of all, the person who's going to teach you is going to be a person who's already an architect or a cloud DevOps engineer in the market right now, right? He's working currently, and on his weekends, in his free time, he's going to teach you as a freelance. So you can be rest assured that you're in safe hands. You are being taught by a person who's already qualified, who's already working in the domain, in the companies that you are basically aiming for and the profile that you are aiming for. So he's already working in that. So he'll be the best person to guide you as to how you should prepare. So this is point number one. Second thing is that we give you around 32 hours worth of projects and lab exercises that you can attempt in this course, which you can also add in your resume, right? Which will not only help you to get a better idea of how production architectures basically work, but at the same time, it will also show the companies that you're applying for that you are not exactly a fresher or you're not exactly a newbie to AWS. You have a certain background in AWS with your applying. Third thing is we also offer a flexible schedule because we understand that whatever schedule of the classes that might be for you, you might not be free on a certain day because of your office commitments or your personal commitments. So in that case, what we offer is a flexible training schedule in which you can reschedule any class that you want at any point in time. And with that, let's say today you had a class at 9, but you will not be able to attend. So we will give you the recording of that class, and at the same time, what we'll do is if you want, we can reschedule your class as well to a certain point in future. And finally, we give you 24/7 lifetime support as well. What that means is that after your instructor has taught you, after you have learned everything, right? Let's say you're practicing on your own and you get stuck at some point in time. What you can do is you can reach out to our support team, who are again technical experts, and can help you in the queries that you're getting, right? So that is what the 24/7 support basically means. Okay, and with that said, you will also be able to see all the course content that we have planned for you in this course, right? So all this course content is basically directly mapped with the AWS certification. So you can be rest assured that everything that is going to be taught to you is the latest of what AWS is going to ask you in their certification exams, and also according to the job profiles which are out there. Okay. And again, so there's also a little treat for all the people who are attending this on YouTube and webinar. So guys, if you enroll in the course with us today, right, we are giving a flat 30% off on all our courses, any course that you want to opt for. So all you have to do is you have to type in the promo code YouTube30. So if you type in that promo code, you will get a flat 30% off on whatever the price is being displayed on the website. Okay, so if you're interested, just head over to our website or just call us on the numbers which are displayed over here on the screen. Just head over to Intellipaat.com. You will be able to see our numbers. Call on these numbers, and my team would be giving you the best possible offer that is possible for you. And on top of that, you have the 30% off promo code that I just gave you that you can make use of. Okay, so with that, guys, we have come to an end of the session. So people who have questions now is the time. You can basically go ahead and ask. And Vipul, I'm now going to unmute you, so you can go ahead and ask me your queries.
Hello. Yeah, the thing is that I have already questioned you because I don't have the IT background.
Okay,
So you told me that you have to go for the solution architecture. Okay,
right,
but the I don't have the Linux background as well. So with the
right.
course material, I got the Linux background as well.
Yes.
So is that helping me out with to pursue the course?
Yeah, so like I said, with the AWS course, you get the free Linux training as well, right? So with this free Linux training, first you will have to complete this course, which we will give you for Linux, and then you can start off with your AWS batch. So when you're doing your AWS batch, the trainer is basically going to ask you or show you demonstrations on Linux. So that's how you will be able to catch up with the class. But going ahead with the Linux training first is very imperative before you start off with your AWS class. So that would be my suggestion to you. Okay, Naveen is saying, can we get recorded session of this session? Yes, Naveen. You will be getting the recorded session of this over the email. So you can go ahead and listen to it again if you want. Any other questions, guys? Anything else that I can help you with? I will be happy to answer. If not, let's move ahead and close the session. Any more questions, guys? Anything that I can help you with? Okay, so if there are no more questions, I thank you all for joining in today. So Pandi has a question. He's saying, any job assistance will be arranged by Intellipaat? Yes, Pandi. So what we do is, once you're done with the course, once you have completed all the assignments, case studies, quizzes that we have given you, right? And if you score a good number, what we do is we select a 10 or 20 percentage of the people who have completed all the assignments correctly, and we forward your resume to because we are in the B2B space as well. That basically means we also train corporates. So when we train corporates, they're always on the lookout of professionals that they're being trained on. For example, let's say if I'm training Capgemini today for AWS, right? So they are training their employees on AWS, and at the same time, they're also looking out for people who might be taught in AWS and who might be interested to join. So we share your resume with these kind of companies, and then it's their call how they conduct the interview with you, and it's on upon your skill set whether you're able to crack their interviews or not. Apart from that, we also help you in resume building. So what we do is, whatever current resume that you have, you can send it to our support team once your course is done. And what we do is we update your resume with respect to all the skills that you have learned in the course. So this is the kind of job assistance that is given to you by Intellipaat once you're done with the course. Kirti is saying, any projects will be done with the course? Yes, Kirti. So if you head over to the project section, you will be able to see. So these are some of the projects which are a part of the course, which we will be teaching you, right? Apart from these as well, there are a lot of case studies which each module is going to have, and those case studies should also be enough to replicate the production environment problems that you're going to face. So that is again something that you can go for. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay. So if there are no more questions, I thank you all for joining in today. I hope you guys have learned something new today and this session has helped you. And if it did, please go ahead and give the feedback once this class is over, right? So I thank you all for joining in today. Have a great day ahead, guys, and goodbye.